hope you're all staying well and adjusting to having to stay indoors, our new normal for now at least. And some of you have been asking questions about how I go about writing a book. And so I thought I would take this time to actually walk you through it, since I'm actually starting another story myself. So the first thing we'll do is we'll talk about how we come up with an idea. And right now what I usually do is I just take a notebook and I start scribbling out ideas of whatever's on my mind, what I think would be a good story. And so right now, obviously the thing on everybody's mind is the whole coronavirus. And so I thought it would be good to go ahead and address that and see if I could help a few of the kids that I know are kind of struggling through this time. And so the first thing I'm doing is I'm validating the whole idea of that, yes, this is a hard time. There's a lot of new challenges, but I didn't want to just stay focused entirely on that. I wanted to actually talk about the good things that are coming about for it. So looking for the good is the whole concept of the story. And so I asked a lot of my students at Woodland to go ahead and give me some ideas of things that they have found that people are doing good, or that has been a result of this whole ordeal we're going through that have actually been good. And so some ideas have already come in that have been fabulous, like more family dinners and game nights, going on long walks, seeing people doing things to help each other. And so I'll be incorporating a lot of that in the book. So after I write down all my ideas that I want to actually be in the story, then I start deciding, okay, how do I want the book format to be? If it was an older kid book, then obviously it would be just text. This one I wanted to be a picture book, and I decided for this one I actually wanted to rhyme. Sometimes I rhyme, sometimes I don't. This one will be a rhyming book. And so I started outlining what all I want to happen on each page. And then I go ahead and just start writing it out. And it usually takes a couple of drafts. My first one is never perfect, so I go through and I make any corrections that I feel like I need. And right now I'm pretty much done with that, except for a few pages. I wanted to give my students a chance to give me a few more ideas before I wrap it all up. So I've left a couple pages blank still so that they can add more ideas to it. But for the most part, I have the story where I want it to be. So the next thing I start doing is start thinking about how I want to illustrate each of the pictures. And so the first thing I do is I use regular paper and I just start sketching out what image I want for that particular page. And I do it on just regular paper so that I can use a pencil and just erase, because there's a lot of mistakes that happen at this stage, and that's totally fine. Very easy to erase on regular paper with a pencil. So once I finally get the sketch where I am fairly happy with it, then I transfer it to watercolor paper, which is nice and thick and kind of bumpy. And I use watercolor pencils when I'm transferring it to that, because the regular pencil will not work well, it'll just make a mess. And so on this version, I don't want to use an eraser because it'll mess up the paper a little bit, and it's hard to erase the watercolor pencils. So that's why I do this little sketch first and save myself a lot of time. So right now I'm to that stage where I am starting to transfer all the pictures to the watercolor paper and then start painting them. So this one I just transferred over, and so I'm going to start painting it today, and I'll let you see a little bit, clips of it, as I'm painting this one. And then I'll show you more steps down the road once all the paintings are dry and ready to be scanned in. So with that, we'll go ahead and start painting one of the paintings. So here I'm actually painting the next picture, and I'm doing a sunset. So I start off getting the paper wet with the paintbrush and then adding my colors so that they kind of blend into each other. And then when I have the sunset to the point that I like it, I move on to the sky. And then I'll gradually move forward in the picture by adding the tree and the red panda, things like that. And the reason I chose the red panda for this book was I've been hearing a lot about Heart to Heart helping out with the coronavirus, and so they've been on my mind lately. And one of the trips that I went with Heart to Heart on was to China. And while I was in China, I actually had the opportunity to hold a red panda. So that's kind of where my thought process went for that. This is another picture that I'm doing that's later on in the book. I start with the background and then move my way back to the red panda. And the picture that's on the back of the book, the author picture, is actually a photo of me a while back holding a red panda in China. So on this picture, I'm adding a sewing machine at the very last minute. I like to add a real photo to some of my books, and I try to have one little real thing on each painting. I've done that for the last 3 books or so, just for fun. So on this particular painting, at the very last minute, I'll add some hand sanitizer and toilet paper into the little box that I'm painting right now. Just adding the finishing details. Sometimes to get the color nice and deep, I go over it several times with several different greens or browns or whatever I'm working on, just to give it a little more color. For the details, sometimes I will add a watercolor pencil just to give it a little more of an outline, just because watercolors are kind of hard to get details on. They're fun to paint with, but hard to get details on. All right, as soon as I'm done with all the paintings and I let them dry, then I will put them in a scanner, and that way I can enter them into my computer. So here I'm just putting it in the scanner. Once it's entered into my computer, then I can format the actual text. I usually use InDesign for that, but you could use quite a few different programs. And then when I feel good about what I've entered on InDesign, then I submit it to Kindle Direct Publishing, and that way they can actually format it, do the final format and check, and then post it on Amazon. And I can either program it as an ebook or a paperback book, and I usually choose to do both, just so I can reach more people. And so here I'm going in and entering them on Photoshop, and then I put it into InDesign. And then I'm able to publish it right on Amazon, so lots of people can access it. So that is pretty much the entire process of me creating a book. So thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoy the story Looking for the Good.